Avatar: Fire and Ash is a whirlwind experience, and it all goes so fast you might have missed some vital details connecting the past and future of Pandora, plus one sneaky tribute to a completely unrelated movie. Every Na'vi clan we've seen so far has had a tree or tree-like structure as their spiritual center. The Amatakaya had their home tree and Tree of Souls. The Metkaina commune with the underwater spirit tree. Even in the montage of Jake rallying the clans of Pandora in the first movie, we saw the same thing at the homes of the horse clans of the plains. Every clan, that is, except the Mangwan. But do they? Or rather, did they? When Quaritch treks out to the Ash clan's home, he finds them living in a jagged, rocky outcrop surrounded by a burnt wasteland. Like Varong says, a volcano burned their home to ash. But if you look closely during the wide shots, it becomes clear that those jagged cliffs are actually the petrified remains of the trunk and root system of a giant home tree. It's a tragic detail when you think about it. We know they felt abandoned by Eywa after the destruction of their home, but it's never explicitly mentioned that they're still living in that home, with its remains symbolizing what they've become as a clan: hostile, cold, and fairly inhospitable to life. It's pretty obvious that Na'vi romance has some major differences from human romance. After all, unless you're Spider, we don't exactly have Kuru to link our souls together. Just like Jake did in the first Avatar, Quaritch finds himself captivated at the possibility of shacking up with a real Na'vi when he meets Varong. After some arms shipments and powder huffing, they become the most villainous power couple on all of Pandora, a worthy match for Jake and Neytiri. In fact, there are plenty of ways in which Quaritch and Varong's relationship parallels theirs. Both Jake and Quaritch find themselves at the mercy of their future partners when they first meet them, only to fall in love and embrace their culture wholeheartedly. Both introduce their new clanmates to human technology, and both are willing to fight to the death to protect them. That said, Varong and Quaritch's twisted reflection of the Sully's love is made very clear when Varong drops one of the most famous quotes from the first Avatar.
I see you.
I see you.
While Jake's response is tender and genuine, it's impossible for Quaritch not to stroke his own ego. When Varong tells him that she sees him, his response is notably different.
I see you.
Damn right you do.
Just 4 words says a whole lot about Quaritch as a character. Despite his insistence that he views Varong as an equal, he's incapable of leaving his marine mentality behind and understanding the world in the way a Na'vi does. As we already hinted at, one of the most memorable moments in Fire and Ash is when Varong interrupts our negotiations with Quaritch to blow a mysterious powder up his nose. Judging by how blurry and colorful Quaritch's vision becomes, it seems to be some kind of psychoactive drug. You might not know that this wasn't the first time that James Cameron tried to get psychedelic with the Avatar series. In one of many deleted scenes that didn't make it into the original Avatar, Jake undergoes a ritual called the Dream Hunt that puts him through a similar experience. Instead of a puff up the nose, Jake is made to eat one bug and stung by another. His trip is even more extreme. He has the same blurry vision until colors start to change, and a flash of light allows him to see the connection between all living things. He's lifted upward, coming face to face with a spiritual force that might just be Eywa herself. No one knows for sure why this scene was removed. Maybe it was just for time, or maybe Cameron wanted to save the Eywa reveal for a couple movies later. Whatever it was, for Avatar fans, a truly trippy moment has been a long time coming. Avatar isn't what you'd call a biblical franchise, other than in the sense of what they're doing with those ponytails. But it does draw on multiple influences, and spirituality has always been a core of the Na'vi's belief, reflecting some real-world religions. Ask the right people, and you get the sense that Jake's path in the first movie has some Jesus parallels, not to mention Kiri's divine parentage, and other stuff like that. You could connect those and other plot points to any mythological framework, but one scene in Fire and Ash gets pretty on the nose. When Jake leads Spider into the jungle with the intent to irreversibly send him to Eywa. Anyone who ever went to Sunday school as a kid would be hard-pressed not to think of Abraham taking his son Isaac up on the mountain to sacrifice him at God's command. The difference here, maybe even an intentional difference, is that in that story, an angel intervenes. In this story, Neytiri is just about to intervene before Jake changes his mind of his own free will. All the stories have been told, as they say, but they're always a little different. As the New York Times once wrote about Avatar, it's a gospel according to James Cameron, that is. They say that Rome wasn't built in a day, but Bridgehead is another story. The city established by humans on the Pandoran surface is constructed using AI and 3D printing technology, allowing the RDA to gain a quick foothold in their attempt to colonize Na'vi territory. Nevertheless, it's still in the process of being built during the events of the Way of Water.
These swarm assemblers, they can put up a building in 6 days. We have done more here in a year than in the previous 30 years.
When we last see Bridgehead in the Way of Water, it looks like a construction site, albeit on a massive scale. When we see it again in Fire and Ash, which takes place not too long after the end of the second film, it's pretty much completed and completely unrecognizable. There's metal and smog everywhere, with its fires of industry drawing a parallel to the fire that Varang and the other Mangquan are so enamored with. It's only fitting that Neytiri is able to use this to her advantage, blowing up vehicles and other flammable objects to save Jake from having to face a firing squad. Sigourney Weaver is sci-fi royalty. She's been in Avatar, Alien, Ghostbusters, Galaxy Quest, and as the trailers before Fire and Ash made sure to remind everyone, she's finally bringing her talents to Star Wars in 2026. The 76-year-old industry veteran is such a welcome presence on the big screen that it's hard to take issue with the fact that she plays a teenager in the Avatar sequels. If we had to pick one role that defines Weaver's legacy, it would no doubt be Ellen Ripley from the Alien saga. Just like many of the characters in Avatar, including her original role of Dr. Grace Augustine, Ripley leaves our solar system to help corporate interests turn a profit and has some life-changing encounters with extraterrestrials as a result. That's not the only connection. Aliens was the first collaboration between Weaver and James Cameron, but most certainly not the last. So why does this matter to Fire and Ash? You might have missed it if you've never watched Aliens, but one of Curie's desperate pleas sounds suspiciously like Ripley's iconic threat to the Xenomorph Queen.
Get away from her, you...
39 years later, Curie shouts a very similar line at Varang when the Mangwan leader threatens to harm Neytiri, yelling, "Stay away from my mother." Nevertheless, Weaver claimed that she totally missed the connection, telling Games Radar Plus, "I wasn't thinking about the power loader, but I understand why people get some sort of reference." Every eyeball in the theater was glued to the screen when Curie, with Spider and Tuck's help, finally managed to come face to face with Eywa, the Great Mother. And much to everyone's surprise, Eywa has a face. That alone is a surprising feature for the spirit of Pandora. Eywa is everything, a piece of every blade of grass and fish in the sea. But it makes sense if you think about it. As some have speculated, it appeared to Curie in that form as something that her brain could comprehend, sort of an avatar of Eywa, if you want to think about it that way. And one super small detail you might have missed that backs up that speculation was that this face of Eywa has hairy eyebrows. That's not a Na'vi thing. If you've never noticed, Na'vi have a line over their eyes that sort of looks like an eyebrow. But only the avatars and the hybrids, like Jake, his kids, and Curie, actually have hair up there. Based on the eyebrows, it's almost certain that this was merely a representation of Eywa, not her true form. Some people even got the impression that, while Eywa's face was clearly Na'vi in form, it also resembled Curie's mother/genetic donor, Grace. At different times, Fire and Ash is either eager to make you feel right back at home on Pandora, or completely certain you've seen the other two movies and don't need any hand-holding in the mechanics of the world. That may be why it hardly took two breaths to explain the purple energy tornado that suddenly starts flinging ships and upward cascading fireballs, and ripping the guns away from Jake and Quaritch during their final fight. Before that battle, the RDA ships are instructed to basically stay away from it because it's a flux vortex. As to what that means, well, you have to go back to Avatar, where it's also briefly mentioned that the flux vortices are magnetic anomalies.
Yeah, look at my instruments.
Yep, we're in the flux vortex.
To understand what causes them, you have to leave the films completely and page through the world of Avatar, a visual exploration. Basically, they're caused by overlapping gravitational fields of Pandora and its parent planet, Polyphemus. It's implied there's a heightened spiritual connection where they show up. In Avatar, it was particularly strong at the Tree of Souls, and in Fire and Ash, this extremely strong temporary vortex is where the Tolkien were gathering for their ceremony. By making one an important set piece, Fire and Ash expects a pretty intimate understanding of Pandora, but it does drop those small details to act as breadcrumbs to figure out what the heck is happening.